Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the DJ Sessions Presents the Virtual Sessions. I'm your host, Darren, and right now I'm in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and coming in from, I forgot to ask, free show, we have, I hope I get this right, Klartraum coming in from, yeah, where are you two coming, Helmet and Nadia, where are you coming in today from us? Where are you at today?
From Germany.
Germany. We love Germany. Germany's fun. Halfway around the world. Fun stuff always going on over there in Germany. Well, thank you so much for being here on the DJ Sessions. It's a pleasure to have you today. And we started the show almost right on time.
Because,
Thank you.
Because we are German.
Yeah, it's just been so busy over here at the DJ Sessions, and we're so honored to have you on the series. And we got a lot of stuff to get through today, some questions for you, talking about the new stuff you have in the works. And again, just thank you so much for being here on the DJ Sessions. And please pardon the church music before the show starts up. We didn't choose that. That's our wonderful provider, Restream, that plays that awesome, let's get ready to go. It doesn't really pump you up. It kind of makes you go, I'm ready for a sermon.
Yeah.
But you know what? We were speaking a little bit before the show, and speaking of kind of down tempo, ambient music to kind of set the mood, that has been a new direction that the both of you have taken with your projects, correct?
Correct.
Yes, definitely.
And why the change? Now, I am a huge fan of down tempo, by the way. I listen to an internet radio station. You may have heard of Groove Salad by Soma FM out of San Francisco. I've been listening to them since about 2003. I love Rusty and what his team does there. And Groove Salad is when I'm not listening to shows and I'm not producing DJ shows or music and I'm not in the nightclubs, everyone knows Darren and Groove Salad are together.
Super.
He does.
Very good, very good.
So why the change to down tempo though?
Yeah, for us, we felt a little limited by always creating only the club sound. We felt limited in terms of it had to function in a certain way, and it had to be a certain length, and there had to be a break, and functional music. And at one point we sat together and we just listened to what our souls and musicians' hearts want, and that was creating music that was not limited anymore. So we sat down and created whatever we wanted, and out came ambient in a way. Ambient and like long live recordings, live sets. That's how we produce our music. We don't maybe create music in a way that we.
Yeah, it's more band style.
Yeah, it's more live.
Yeah, more live. So I play the piano or e-piano or something like that, and Nadia is tweaking sounds live. And at a certain stage where we feel that it's now a good combination, we just press record, and usually it works out very fine because we do this now for a long time.
16 years.
Yeah, 16 years.
Somewhat, 16 years or so.
So even the club recordings were one takes or usually live takes, but with this chill out and down tempo, it's even more live in a way.
You know, it brings me back to my original days my beginning days when I got to start playing with instruments. My brothers were musicians, and my father decided to lavish upon them or spoil them with a bunch of studio gear. And one of the things that he got was a Chromo Polaris keyboard. I was told that it was a hot one at the time. This is back in the 80s. And my brothers weren't traditionally trained in music in any way, shape, or form. But I was 8 years old, and I'd go into this studio and I'd play with this gear. And I always loved the atmospheres, the pans, the synthesizer sound, and that kind of ambient, you could just hit the keys, and it wasn't like you're playing the piano. It's just you had these. It was just really awesome, and I think that's where my first electronic music experience came from, was playing around on that keyboard. And I just, after talking about you with this, I never put that two and two together until today. I always thought groove salad, or maybe my early likings into trip hop got me into down tempo, like Mono and Tricky and Massive Attack, got me in there. But I just realized today, it was when I started playing with that keyboard when I was a kid, that it really got me in there. It's always been kind of soothing and relaxing. And you're right. It doesn't fit into that 3 minute. Well, I guess radio play is three and a half minutes, or club play where it's a 4-minute track or 6-minute track. And, it really can set the mood. And I think I look at, to me, as that's my classical music. And I love classical music too.
Me too.
But down tempo Hammy. Now, in making the change to down tempo, you two actually have a number of albums coming out, and 2 of them are going to be down tempo, and 1 of them is going to be club. Yeah. And I was doing some research online and looked up. You also did something here recently on YouTube. And we'll talk about the albums in just a second. But I was interested when I pulled this up on YouTube. Tell me a little bit about Energy Medicine Theta Flow.
Oh, yeah. Nadja?
That was on the last album, I suppose. Theta Flow is, it means binaural beats with theta frequencies. And since I've been producing binaural beats and healing frequencies for quite some time, many years,
10 years.
I decided to also add some theta to our ambient music once in a while.
That's awesome. And this is done. I was looking at the YouTube channel. I got all my stuff pulled up on my second monitor over there. This is all done. Is this part of, like, is this a studio session that you do, or is this something outside of the albums, outside of the tracks, or like it's an ongoing project?
It's a studio session in the manner that Helmut already described. Like we have 2 synchronized studios or systems, so to say. So we both tweaking at the same time, so we can hear what the other is doing. And when we think we are ready and all the sounds are there, then we decide to record it.
Yeah, the interesting part is also I'm also mastering engineer. So I have a special setup where I can master real time also. So that means the product usually, if you have a recording, is usually ready. We are getting always a little bit pain if we have to do something on the track, because there were some little things inside. Then it's a little bit pain. But usually it's one takes, and it's already mastered. It sounds great, and we just have to think about how to release it, or if we want to release it. Yeah.
Well, I do want to say one of your fans has tuned in. I don't know how to say their name. It could be Russian, because they said from Russia with love. Just want to always give a shout out. You probably recognize them. They might jump in your chat room from time to time. I don't know how to pronounce their name. Otherwise, I'd give them a shout out. Sorry about that. But we're using new technology, and I always love to make sure we get our viewers into the viewers in the show, especially if they're your viewers, because we're simulcasting this into your YouTube and your YouTube channel as well. So thank you for setting that up. Well, that's awesome. I mean, I've heard that, and you're probably really big on this. You'll know a lot more about this subject than I will, that the frequency that we listen to music at was standardized at, oh gosh, I want to remember. It's not 432. Is it 430?
440.
444?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard that I can't. You go.
440 hertz.
Yeah.
Thank you, 440. But I heard there is a different resonance that you can get, a different vibration that happens when you record at higher vibrations. When you release tracks, do you release them at that higher frequency rate, or can it? Does it make a difference? Do you follow that belief?
No, we are more interested in that there are certain frequencies that you put onto the ears, and the brain tries to synchronize this difference inside the brain and tries to synchronize the internal brain frequency to this both tones that are in the ear. And this is meant with binaural beats, for example. And so we tried once to retune our music and it sounded terrible, to tell the truth. And we are really into harmonies and stuff like that. And you have to tune your complete studio. And I saw also some YouTuber, I think it was Vertasium or something, who tried also to retune, and it didn't sound not really great.
Yeah, it's. I've heard about like going to bed at night and putting on different frequencies to help your brain kind of tune in. I haven't ever experimented with anything like that, and didn't know if that was something that was a model of what you do with your music when you put it together. If you take that into consideration, now, do you have any other aliases under which you release music?
Don't ask this question. Yeah, okay. So Nadia for sure is releasing as Nadia Lind. She toured also the world DJing, and I release as Helmut Ebrich, my real name. And then I have several other projects. Yes. So there's one release on Soma Glasgow. That's Hatikva, and the album is named Synchronicity, for example. So yes, I started in the 90s producing music, and at that time the labels bound the name to their label. So that's why we have Puff Daddy, Puff Diddy, Puff P Diddy. It's because the labels buy the name, so they release you, but they want to sign your name. So that's in the 90s. I have a lot of names, but I in the moment concentrate on Klartraum only.
But
Goldmonk is also a project. Yes, it started also.
Did you really start on a Commodore 64 computer producing music?
Yes.
I mean, that just goes way back. Do you still own that Commodore 64?
No, but I have a Quadra-SID, that's a plug-in for VST for Ableton Live. 8 years I got the C64, and there was a program named Sound Monitor, and you had to, so every line was a 16th note, so you had all these lines of code in front of you, and you could enter numbers and the note, and then you had free voices, and that was awesome because I learned so much about harmonies and all this. It was chords at the time. That was really intensive because it was also completely away from the world, because there were just a special scene that was doing this. And later on, there was something that was named tracker scene. That was a scene that was producing this kind of music and exchanging through mailboxes. So that means there was no internet, there was nothing. It was only this beep 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 acoustic couplers, or how do you name it in English, where you put in modems, and you could exchange it over these mailboxes. So it was quite new, really new stuff.
Kind of remember those days. I had an Amiga 2000 right out of high school. Commodore, I think bought Commodore. I think that's the way it went. Or Commodore bought Amiga. It was one of the, but I bought it for video games. And I just remember like every level you had to put in a new disc and then pop the disc out for the new level and put in a new disc and pop a new disc. And it was tedious, but then Windows came out. Yay. But have you always been a software producer, or do you use hardware? Do both of you use hardware or software? Which is your preferred method?
My preferred is software, because I'm not in this production scene as long as Helmut, for example. So I kind of started learning how to produce on Reason propeller heads.
Propeller heads, yeah, wow.
And then I switched to Ableton. That's actually how I met Helmut, because we met on an internet forum for producers where you could upload your music and ask questions, and that's how we met, because I had a question for Helmut. And yeah, but Helmut is definitely, or he was into
so
all kind of gear.
I downsized a little bit. So there was a time where I had a sampler, where I had 5 or 10 synths. Yeah, it was even more synths. All kind of everything MIDI, and and since a friend of mine worked at Ableton, they gave me the first betas, and I could try out that. And since that, the outboard just reduced now. I really like to have some keys to play around. I also have this Moog in the background that you see blinking around, because you can tweak the sounds, but usually that's enough. I have some smaller live equipment that I take with me from Roland or stuff like that, but that's it. It's not like this big studio setup
Anymore.
Yeah. I think going back to what I was saying earlier, playing with the equipment hands-on. And I used to work for Apple. I used to be a trainer for Apple. So I used to have to train people how to use Logic, not be a music producer, how to navigate through Logic and do certain things in Logic. But that was my introduction to software producing, was using Logic. But I think I always loved the hands-on, touch the knobs, move the knobs, turn the knobs, hit the keys, that kind of production, because I felt like I was actually manipulating the sound. Rather than using a mouse and a keyboard or adjusting the level and saying playback, adjusting level playback. I was do it in real time. I used to actually own in 2001, I had bought a MC505 and a SP808 from Roland. And I would just go over to my friend's house. I was not in music production in any way, shape, or form. It was more like I wanted to do this. I wanted some toys. I was never going to become a DJ. He was a DJ, and I was going to play with these real-time sequencer and samplers, and we just sit back and kind of party at his house, and I just make up songs and doing everything while manipulating. It was a lot of fun doing that, because again, having that hands-on control. I mean, I guess I could get MIDI interfaces for all of these things, to manipulate and do stuff in real time. But yeah, I never went into a career of music production, because I'm a video guy. I love video. I love the video. I love the interviews. I let y'all make the music. You all can make the music.
Yeah.
I want to interview you, about making the music. What's the longest time the two of you have ever spent consecutively working in the studio on a track? What's the longest time you ever spent producing a track to get one out?
Together, yeah,
correct. Yeah.
I don't remember. But I think we were always pretty fast.
Yeah, but sometimes if something is not right and the end result, we sometimes sit there and reduce. So usually the normal process takes us, let's say, around 15 to 20 hours for a track. And then it depends, is there still work to do? Then it just can expand exponentially. But we have to tell you, if a track gets too unflowy, we just kill it. So if it's not having a certain flow, because the flow is, our label is named Lucid Flow, so we are very into that the music has a certain flow, that it just all goes by itself, because otherwise you're fighting against something or try to control something, and that's not working for me.
Or it's also possible that the music is right, but our state is kind of odd and off. So sometimes we just pause and with a fresh ear we sit down, and with a different state we sit down again, and then we listen, and sometimes it's like, wow, how could we miss that? I mean, it sounds really great. So yeah, sometimes it's not the music.
That's true.
Gonna bring in a question from a viewer right now. Andreas says, "Love your sets and the way you harmonize. I'm wondering what role improvisation plays for you. Greets from the Dusseldorf area."
Yeah.
Hi to Düsseldorf.
So, how much of improvisation? How much of a role does improvisation play in your sets,
Yeah.
in your live sets?
A lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our basis. So we cut, every track is cut into small mini loops. So a bass drum, hi-hat, claps, and so on. It's all cut into small pieces. Each of us has, let's say, a setup, and we can start with parts. Both of us can start with independently. So if we do nothing, nothing would happen. It's not like pressing, as a DJ, pressing a button and when everything plays. It's more you need to take care of any track. And then I have most of the time the e-piano with me, Rhodes simulations, and I try to play a lot of times live. And now I also have a looper, so I can loop recorded loops or lines that I play. And this also works out very well, right?
And I have the TR8, and yeah, so it's a lot of fun sometimes to completely mix different elements from different tracks. I mean, we still can kind of play our tracks so people would recognize it, but they are always a little different. So we can't really play the same track in the same way next time. It's you will recognize it, but it's always a little bit different. So that's what's fun about it.
Yeah, the fun part is, so if we have on Spotify, I think a lot of live sets that we recorded. I don't know if it's also Fabric, but for sure Tresor and some sets we played, and they are all different. The tracks are recognizable, but they are like mixed completely different. I mean, different elements, sometimes harder, sometimes totally soft, sometimes strange, sometimes, yeah. And the good thing is, so for us, it's always a surprise and something new.
I think that's great about live performance and be able to do that because, let's say somebody was following you and they saw you in one city and then they're going to see you the next night. It's not going to be the same show.
Right.
I think that's a treat. I think that's something that's unique that, I mean, a DJ can come in and, I've wanted to work with DJs and a lot of them won't let you record their set, especially when they're on tour or live stream their set when they're on tour because they're worried that people might watch the set or watch the show and what they have planned. Say if they're doing a show in Seattle and they go 180 miles away to go play in Portland, which is a city very close to us, that, people might go, oh, I saw the set in Seattle last night. I'm not going to go watch it in Portland. I already know what they're going to play. And I know as a DJ, you're always reading the floor and you're changing the music, but you could have a planned set list or a planned set mix that you could play with. But when you're manipulating in real time, and you can't hit that knob right back where you were or that timing that just comes in. It's awesome. By the way, I'm going to give a shout out right now to Telephone Pole, who just rated the channel. Thank you so much for doing that. Awesome stuff there. Do you know Telephone Pole?
No, but we just give him a thumbs up.
And greetings from Chile. We got Boris. Greetings from Chile coming in as well. This is really cool. I love using this new system of being able to bring people in because we're using Restream now. It's a really awesome platform to use. And thank you all for watching, but we're going to get back to the interview. If you could look at a list of your productions that you've done so far, which of those stands out the most to you and why? And this is as your collaborative.
For me, that would be, how's it called? Universe d'Amour. Universe d'Amour, the liquid version.
Yeah, it's very new. It's very new, and it's a very special track because John Digweed also played it at some really big festival in the UK. Yeah, so
Yeah,
we were
just
not even
recently.
aware, and he released also on Apple in his playlists.
On his some compilation on Apple. Yeah.
So we were very happy about that. Sometimes you're surprised where your music ends up and what hands. And for me, the track would be Pain Relief. It's a very club track, what was played by many DJs. It's more the, let's say, old Klartraum from the beginning. And it's a really banger. And still people play it today. It's not like, someone said that we are timeless. So you can play our old music still. No one would recognize it's the production from let's say 10 years ago.
You know, I think that is something that I find amazing about electronic music is you could take a person today who say they're in their 20s and play something that was made 20 years ago. And they'll be like,
Right.
oh, that's so awesome. When did this come out? What is this brand new? It's like, no, that came out 20 years ago, or
Yeah.
that came out 30 years ago. You know,
Yeah.
they don't know. And that's what I love about electronic music being kind of timeless. And especially, you know, if there aren't vocals with it, and I don't mean when it's trance or house. I mean, even those vocals can stand the test of time, as opposed to kind of like a rock song or a pop song, you know, that might be fitting with the times, you know, and you can go, oh, that was the Spice Girls, or oh, that was Britney Spears, or oh, that was such and such rock band, or that was Nirvana, that was during the grunge era. You know, electronic music, it doesn't become, it's classic, but it doesn't become classic. You always see people doing their shows where they're like, we're going to play tracks and it's only going to be tracks from the 90s during this set. And you go back and you watch a show like that, you're like, wow, I remember listening to that in the nightclubs, and it still hits so hard today as it did back then. I think that's really awesome that music can be timeless like that. You know, who has been, and this is a question for the both of you, either one of you can go first. Who has been your biggest influence when it comes to your career as an artist, and why?
Wow. For me, it was probably Terry Lee Brown Jr. when I listened to his album From Dub Till Dawn. And I think I listened to this album for weeks, night and day, or even longer than weeks. Yeah, so this really hit me.
Yeah, and the fun part is that he did a remix for you.
Yes.
So later than like 10 years later or something.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Oh, that was really awesome. Yeah.
The same happened to me. For me, it was Silicon Soul, and I loved their music. And we had a track, I think it was Love Is the Answer or something like that, and it hit me really much. And also, 10 years they did a remix for Pain Relief.
Yeah.
So awesome. I mean, that made us really, really happy.
And also G-Man, former LFO. I mean, he's also really well known in the business. And when I listened to his Quo Vadis track, I think I asked like 3 times, what is that again? What is that again? Every time a friend of mine, he played it, and I asked him what it is. And this, I love it. I love it up to today.
Have you two ever visited a far country away from Germany, like around the world, where you were actually surprised that people actually knew all of your music?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Where?
One would be Russia. Another one,
Yeah, the strangest thing was in Lebanon.
Yeah,
In
Lebanon
Lebanon,
is.
Beirut, the people were deeply into the music, and they were like could say, yeah, you did this release, and we could, oh, what did we do this release? Oh yeah, yes. And then
Yeah.
you did this release, and this is so awesome, and we were like, wow, we are really digged into it, and the same was in the Ukraine, where we even said, yeah, this was such an influential track that the whole party crew partied to this for months or something like that. And so this was really intense to recognize. Yeah, if you're in Berlin, you are like in a bubble, because there's just so if you just go outside to the bakery, you meet 5 DJs. If you go bicycle and drive to a sea, there are 100 other DJs and whatever producers, and it's so normal to be in this bubble, and that it's so normal that you don't recognize what this means for people if they listen to the music. And if you go outside and to other countries, in Beirut and Lebanon, I really recognize this means the world, because their world, yeah, to tell the truth, was really shitty. Yeah, the
broken
the infrastructure or the whole society is not really stable. So music means a lot to them, and the same was in the Ukraine also. So,
but
yeah.
Australia was also interesting, because even there I got some notes. Yeah, we would really love and appreciate if you play this track and that track. Like, wow, you know all the tracks. Yeah.
And if you could go back, knowing what you know now, and you could go back 25 years in music history or forward 50 years in music future, which one would you pick and why?
Either go back or forth, you mean?
50.
Yeah, you could go back.
Back.
Knowing what you know now, go back 25 years or go forward 50 years.
I'd really, really love to know what's coming in 55 years from now. Yeah, I'd go forward.
Yeah, so I want to play full immersion games also, like plugging something in here or being in a completely new environment. That would be interesting. Also to have AI helping with sound generation or stuff like that. Or yeah, what things that we don't know. Because think back, if you now go back 40 years or 50 years, I mean, where was technology at that time? And imagine where we would be in 50 years. I mean, it's really
imagine our phones now, the power of just a phone that we don't really appreciate anymore. It's like, oh, get rid of it. And
Well,
yeah, everything like.
Well, I did see that the both of you did a VR set for Burning Man 2020.
Yeah.
And it leads me into one of my next questions. What are your thoughts on VR? And we can talk about AR after VR. The reason I bring that up is we just launched 2 nightclubs in VR on Altspace, and we're super excited to do so much inside of there, from guest mixes. Speaking of, we'll be getting your exclusive guest mix for the DJ sessions into our VR nightclubs and in rotation there. But
Nice.
Super excited because the conversation I have with people nowadays, and you both said you're looking for the future and AI and VR and different environments in different worlds, is I try to tell everyone, websites in the .com era in 1995, businesses would say, oh, I don't need a website. I play shows. I play at the clubs. That's what I'm doing. The clubs bring my audience. But if you had an online presence, people saw that, oh, I'm going to go there. I'm going to follow you, which then turned into blogs, which then turned into social media, and now there's a huge social media kick, and a lot of artists have to focus on doing their social media, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I keep telling everyone, if you're not looking into doing something in VR, you're going to be left in the dust 5 years from now, because it's such a huge new type of branding experience you can have that you can immerse yourself in. A lot of the world is still in a laptop or 2D world looking at stuff and viewing it on their phone. But once you put on those goggles, whether it's Oculus or HTC or whatever it is, you can go into a completely different world. And I've seen some really cool stuff in VR that I think I'd like to tell you about offline. I can show you offline. I don't know if you go into alt space or you have been in VR, but what are your thoughts on VR? And of course, it won't take away from the original going and seeing a live show. But what are your thoughts in VR? And are you looking to do more in VR?
Yeah,
We did.
we actually did, as you know, the Burning Man. But even 10 years before, I worked as a software developer for a virtual reality platform. It was not with a headset, but it was like Second Life. And so we were in Second Life, and we were also in this, I think it's Trinity or something was the name. It's not no longer, or Trinity, it's no longer available. And we played there already a live set. And so we were really open to all this. And there were people like dancing and felt
Yeah.
really cool. I have a feeling that this differentiate. So first of all, we found out that the first computers were already a user interface to the universe. So the first, you must imagine, the human comes there, builds a certain machine, and this communicates somehow with the universe through like bits and bytes. And so already the first machines were a user interface, and it's just improving and improving and improving until we come back to what our music is about. And Klartraum means lucid dreaming. And so the human mind is already has the capacity to enter different other realms. Yeah, it could be through drugs. I'm not a friend of that, but it could also be through meditation and improving your dream states. And then you can enter different worlds, and they look like this. They don't look different to this. And so if you then look for the gaming development, like the first games where you have one pixel going up and down, and you were like excited about this one pixel going to the left, and now you are in the full, let's say, Fortnite mode or in playing whatever, and you're so immersed that you say, yeah, I am at this tree standing, and you are running around there. Actually, you're sitting in front of your computer, but you're so immersed that you talk already that I am here and there in this environment. And I only see that this will grow more and more and be normal at a certain time to have certain worlds that are all interacting with each other.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things that we see with VR coming out, that we launched in alt space, but then there's VR chat, and then there's the crypto world with Decentraland, and then there's these other places, there's Rec Room, and there's all Solarium, and there's all these other places that are built. But the one thing is, they are horizons, they don't talk to each other. So you kind of get all these different flavors of virtual reality. But I think you're right, the immersion experience is going to be kind of similar in all of them, where you're like, hey, go run out to that tree, or how music production will work. Can you make songs when music production starts happening in virtual reality? What will that environment look like? And what will live production look like if you're making music live in virtual reality and have a concert going like what you're doing right now, and transfer that into a live experience? But what'll be interesting is, we talked about doing this a long time ago, where we saw a lot of this happening, where we were going to take a nightclub experience and say you're at your home studio, and we could bring you in and stream you live into the club as an exclusive set into the nightclub.
Amazing.
And you could only see the stream inside of the nightclub, patched into the sound system there. What if in virtual reality, you're doing it all in virtual reality and then pumping that into the nightclub in a real world experience? But then people could put on their AR goggles and kind of be in the nightclub, see what's in the virtual reality nightclub. It's going to get really crazy over the next few years. And all the big companies are working on this. It sounds like, Helmut, you follow this kind of closely, but Meta has their glasses coming out. Apple has their glasses. Google's working on something. Sony's working on something. The big companies are working on this. I think it's going to be a huge turn or shift in the industry, and going to that AR conversation of what that's going to be like when we go to a show and we're not having to put on a big headset. We're just going to put on some glasses, and be like, oh, wow. And then if you could tie that in with a MIDI experience, and you're now manipulating the augmented reality experience in real time with what your stage performance is doing. I think that when people start doing that, I think it's going to be awesome. But we have to get the glasses first. The glasses are not on the market yet. So,
but one interesting point is to bring it up, because Nadia said Universe d'Amour is her favorite track. Actually, it's based how did we came up with the name? I was talking to the AI, it's named GPT-3, and I was testing out how could you communicate with it. And it was actually, you could give it different personas. That's already crazy enough. So you could say, hey, you are now a nice guy, at something like that, or you are God, or you could give it certain attributes and it would write from this perspective. And so I gave it very high perspective, and it said, yeah, the universe is love. And I was like, that was really mind-blowing to hear it from where we are coming from Terminator or whatever movies, to hear that from certain, let's say, artificial intelligence is really something new. And it was so creative. I mean, it could write text from scratch, or imagine it. I could even play a text adventure with it. So it's really...
It is impressive already, and this is also not the newest version we talked to. So it's a self-feeding entity or whatever it is. It's our creation, and it will continue. There's no question about it, if you ask me.
Do you go on TikTok at all? Do either of you TikTok?
Only through friends sending me funny videos.
Have you seen the guy who was actually apparently he's using AI to take two songs. He'll take like an electronic song and a pop song. He'll let the AI make the song and pump it out. Have you heard of that guy?
No, but I know that GPT-3 can also write music,
AI song maker. Let me see if I can pull it up. It's okay. So this is called Boomy AI. Make your own songs. You know what? I got to find this guy because now I talked about him. I feel bad that I'm not going to give him a shout out. TikTok. Let's see if I can find this really quick. It's the guy. I think it's Luya. I think it is Louyah. This is getting out of hand. He goes, I can't believe it was an AI bot made this song. And it actually came out sounding really awesome. And you're wondering, is that gonna? Yep, this is him. Oh, okay. I got it. So I don't know if you can hear this or not in the background. Let's see.
This is insane. I don't know who's onto this technology, but I'm onto something.
That song was completely generated by an AI bot.
Yeah.
And I think he took, I can't remember. It's fun. It's I'm trying to find the artists that he merged together. But yeah, it's just crazy what AI could do from a song perspective. Like, are people going to stop writing songs and going, I want to just blend this song and blend? I mean, I know they're not going to stop writing songs and making music, but like you mentioned, you use the Helmet, you use a sample looper, right? Like you'll make something and then you'll loop it and play it on stage. I love that as an art form. I think that is. I remember, I think it was an Apple. It was a presentation, and they had a musician. I can't remember who it was, but she was playing the guitar, and she started out by, tapping on the guitar, set that beat, put that in the loop. Then came in and did a couple strums on the guitar, put that in the loop, and it just all came together. And it just, music production is taking so many twists and turns. It's going to be very interesting. Like, I think both of you agreed that the future, looking at what the future of music is going to hold in 50 years, where it's going to be at in 5 years or even 10 years. It's just going to be so amazing. And I hope that audio came through okay. I'm kind of sitting next to one of my studio speakers and it wasn't bad, but
it was okay.
Yeah, it's going to be very awesome. When you two are not making music, what do you do when you're not making music and playing on going and doing shows?
We also running a label or several labels. The main one is called Lucid Flow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of work. We have many amazing artists and incredible music. It's all focused on deep, like this, deep techno, dub techno kind of sound, and I do a lot of yoga.
My girlfriend is a physical trainer. She does Pilates training and physical training and workout training. So I'm getting in shape over here. I can totally relate to that. Helmut, what do you do when you're not making music in the studio? And what do you do for fun outside of this stuff?
Yeah, so I meditate also a lot. So to get into the sync. And then, as you recognized, I'm big into AI, crypto, and software development. Yeah, it looks really amazing there, what's happening. So it's really exciting.
And we are both into Dr. Joe Dispenza's work a lot since several years. So there's always some interesting topics to talk about or experiences to talk about or to meditate to different meditations. And yeah.
And Helmut, you had mentioned crypto. What are your thoughts on NFTs? Have you two explored the NFT world? Are you going to explore the NFT world? What are your thoughts on what NFTs could do for the music industry? And are you looking and doing anything with that?
Yeah, actually, yes. I installed the Flow chain and played around with it. Also Solana and stuff like that. And so it's quite easy to do visual NFTs, but audio is limited by the sheer size of the audio material, because putting audio into the chain is too expensive. So you need to store the audio somewhere else on some server. And then you have, again, the problem, how do you relate the truthiness, or that's really yours? How do you relate it? What's the proof then if it's on some server? So this is the hard thing that needs to be solved. And some intelligent super guy will solve it. And then this will give a big boost to the music, because then we as an artist can again go away from the Spotify model and give all the music to all the people at once. We can say, no, this music is only for 10 people, 100 people, 1,000, whatever. And then it gets really interesting, because you could do really special remixes, whatever. This is interesting. And I, for example, think Bandcamp is great, because I am, as an artist, directly connected to my fans. Mm-hmm. They pay and I get the money directly. There's no person in between getting money also. So if this is, then you imagine Bandcamp as a decentralized NFT system, then this would be genius, and it would be really bringing also underground artists back again on the top, let's say this way.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things is that when we're looking at getting into the NFT game as the DJ sessions, the artwork or the assets that we create are our interviews. And I would love to take this interview and be able to make it an NFT, the full interview, and then say, hey, fans, you can get, there's only 10 of these or 20 of these. And then I could link your wallet into that. And anytime that transfers, you would get a kick of that. You would get a kickback from that too. Mm-hmm. I think that would be something really awesome that could kind of be a round trip thing. But I've heard that, obviously, like you mentioned, getting the audio file in there, an audio file isn't necessarily that big nowadays, whereas our video files, they're not big in the sense of things, but we're looking about a gig, a gigabyte. And how do you get a gigabyte into an NFT is our process right now.
More interesting services like Audios, Theta, where they have this decentralized streaming figured out, but they are usually streaming it to everyone. So they are not like, you don't have this, you cannot limit it in a way. So I'm sure that there will also be like an individual link or something like that. I'm looking forward because it's time that the artist gets strength again and no longer. So in the past, it was always gatekeepers in front of new, exciting, good music. And in the end, the artist is not really earning a lot of money in a way if you're an underground artist. Yeah,
exactly. I've heard the numbers from, Spotify and Beatport. You have to do so many in sales, to even just squeeze out anything. And it's like, it's interesting, but I think there will be a shift back into the creator's hand. I think that's going to be something that's really awesome. And being able to say, like almost going back to the vinyl days, there's only 1,000 pressings of this, or there's only, 500 pressings of this. And I saw this with Twitter a few months back. Twitter actually, if you uploaded a profile picture and it was an NFT, they gave you a special icon that would say, we recognize that this is a NFT photo and you own this. And I wonder, is Facebook looking at that? Is Instagram, TikTok, are they going to start requiring, hey, you're uploading music? This even could go from a licensing standpoint too. If you bought the NFT and that NFT licensed the music for playback in a live stream or a video on demand, it could be attached to that. I heard the term about 2 weeks ago. I was in an interview and I haven't heard too much of it. I haven't looked into it, but have you both heard the term super contract? Is that a term that rings a bell? Somebody mentioned that in an interview the other day, and it's like, it's the new digital form of contracts that are being signed as opposed to the traditional record label contracts. There's these super contracts that are coming into play. And, it'd be very interesting to see if you could, now, let's say I bought that track off of Beatport and maybe I bought it to listen to, but if I pay a little bit more, I'm going to pay to have the rights to use it in a live stream for this many views. It's going to be very interesting to see how the blockchain technology comes in and ownership goes back to the artist, basically, in some way, shape, or form. Speaking about Beatport and success, how would you two define success as a DJ? Would that be a Beatport top 10 hit, sold out tour? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, why not? I mean, sure. But I also define it to be in contact with fans that give direct feedback, right?
Yeah. And to really love what you do, because a sold out tour could also be very stressful. I don't know if you really have to be in good balance and take care of yourself to be able to do that and stay healthy and happy and love what you do.
Yeah. We played in front of 6,000 people at the Lightning in a Bottle, for example, or I don't know how many thousand. And we were like really far up in a tree that was really nicely designed, and everything was cool. But the people were really far away to recognize that this was no live and not a DJ set. So the more impact it had, we released it on SoundCloud, and people recognize, wow, this is really live, and then it even get more traction. And the other experience was a small club. There were 200 people, but they were like, I was playing here, and they were here in front of us, and they were recognizing we were doing it live, and they got it. They were really going like, yeah, they were like really.
But also like in Fabric, where you are really with the people more or less, and the sound system is amazing, and yeah.
Yeah, I went to the Brooklyn Mirage for my first time last year, and I was blown away at how enormous. I just got up an interview earlier. It was referred to as a mega club or a super club, and and I kind of like that big club experience, and I like the festival experience as well. But the intimate club vibe, where you're right, where it's 200 people or 300 people, just hanging out, and I could see exactly what you mentioned. You see yourself playing on the keyboard right there. I remember years ago. I don't know if you know the artist Chuck Love. Chuck Love. He plays like 7 different instruments, sings vocals, DJs all at the same time. And I saw him for the first time at a club that used to be here in Seattle, and it completely blew my mind that everything that was going on with his production was right there, and I could walk up and shake his hand. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't do that when he's playing live in the middle of his set, but it was you were no more than 20 feet away from him at any given point, and there's 200 people in this room watching him play with great audio. So I've always been torn. Yeah, is it this small intimate club that I love, or is it that big kind of festival? I went to EDC last year as well for the first time, and you're right. Everyone looked like even Shaq was this big on stage, and he's the world's biggest DJ, by the way. That's what he says on Twitter. Twitter. Yeah, but he still was this big from how far away I was watching him. Yeah, okay, you're the world's biggest. But the stage, the theatrics, the stage presentation. I was watching a little bit on Tomorrowland as well, and everyone was calling the Tomorrowland stage the Evil Wizard Castle. That's what it looked like this year, which I was like, that's a castle I'd like to go visit, the Evil Wizard too. But it was just so awesome. But yeah, the artists, you get removed from the audience, and but it sounds like you can play to both. You can work both and have a great time with both. Well, you know what? We're just about to wrap up the interview here. And I know I wanted to mention that once again, you have the 3 albums coming out, 2 down-tempo, 1 club. Are there anticipated dates for those albums? And do they have working titles yet? Or are there titles for them yet?
The first one is called Liquid Dreams 1. And it will come out end of September on Bandcamp exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and from then we take it step by step. So the next down-tempo album will appear sometime later. We don't know yet the date. But the first is Liquid Dreams 1, end of September.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to listening to that. Like I said, I'm always if it's non-business or I'm in the car, it is down-tempo ambient music all the way. I love it. I love sitting back listening to it. I sometimes refer to it as martini music or beach music, where I can be on the beach and I'm on my in my dreams, I'm in Tahiti and I'm on the beach and I'm wearing my linens and the breeze is flowing and I'm kicking back, and it's just that background talking music that doesn't disturb what's going on, but you just say, wow, that's really awesome what you have playing in the background.
Or you can also put good headphones on and listen closely, because there's a lot of things going on, even though it's not disturbing or not heavy music, but if you listen closely, there's a lot going on.
And I also would like to mention that we do have an exclusive mix coming along with this interview, which we're super excited to get up on the site, get it into our live streams, and have that play. Thank you two so much for coming on. Is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know about before we let you go?
Yeah, you visit our Bandcamp, lucidflow.bandcamp.com, and our website.
Yeah.
Find
there's the website.
And thank you so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really awesome. It was an awesome ride, and let's continue. I mean, it will be exciting times for sure.
Absolutely. Helmut and Nadja, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And we'll be definitely following back up with you every 6 months. We like to stay in contact with everyone because there's always new stuff happening. It sounds like September. Well, gosh, that's actually right around the corner. this year has been moving so fast. I can't believe we're in the middle of July. We're actually we're at the end of July almost. Like, what's been going on? It's crazy. So, are you two planning to be at ADE this year by any chance?
No.
No ADE.
No.
Well, we're planning to be at ADE. We'll be there. It's our first year. We're gonna be having some fun.
Okay. It will be interesting.
Yeah, you're gonna have fun. ADE is awesome.
Yeah,
that's a little bit like Berlin style. Yeah.
It's what?
It's like a little bit like Berlin style. You have clubs over clubs in churches everywhere. So
yeah, we had big plans for it, and then we realized we started to make smaller plans, and then smaller plans, and it became, I think we're just going to go and have fun and not try to plan too much. But we are in talks with partnering with somebody for the event, so we're super excited if that happens and goes through. I can't say too much about it online because it's not in ink yet.
Okay.
So, but follow our socials, check it out. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm hoping I get this right because my tongue has been moving for about an hour. Klartraum.
Klartraum.
Good, very good.
All right, awesome. Coming in all the way in from Germany. Thank you so much for being on the DJ Sessions. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Darren.
You're welcome. On that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, but go to our website. All our socials are there. We got news stories, everything going out. We just launched on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Google Play. We'll be launching on Apple TV here soon, but thedjsessions.com for all that information. And remember, on the DJ Sessions, the music never stops.